right. So I'm seeing a lot of familiar faces from yesterday, and then also some new faces and names, which is exciting. So hello, everyone. This is the Taking It Virtual series, and today's topic is on how to monetize and market your virtual content. This is the second of our 4 online sessions. So please be sure to check out the other topics we are covering throughout the week. My name is Danielle Stobie, and I'm the Arts Education Manager with ArtsFairfax, and I will be moderating today's workshop. This session is being recorded, and we are working to have all recorded sessions available on our website. Please also double check that you are muted. We will have time throughout the presentation for questions. At those times, if you would like to ask a question, please use the raise your hand feature and I will unmute each person to be able to ask your question. If you don't wish to speak, you can also type questions in the chat box with the name of your organization, and I will help monitor to ask those questions for you. If you're having technical difficulties, you can email our Information and Technology Manager, Karan, at kbansal@artsfairfax.org with your phone number. And I'm also going to go ahead and copy and paste that in the chat for everybody. I'd like to go ahead and get things started by thanking our speaker, Caroline Weinroth, for presenting today. Caroline is a musician, writer, and artist in the Washington, D.C. area. At George Mason University, she earned a Master of Fine Arts in Creative Writing with a concentration in poetry and a Bachelor of Arts in Theater and Audio Engineering. She is the lead singer, guitarist, and songwriter for the rock band Cinema Hearts. During the COVID-19 pandemic, she has performed live stream concerts for Center of the Arts, GMU, Central Rappahannock Regional Library, Alexandria Office of the Arts, and many others. So go ahead, Caroline, you can take it away.
Thanks. And hey, everyone, thanks for joining in today. I know that we had said in that email that you could change your name and everything, but if everyone wants to maybe drop in the chat like a little intro about yourself, like your name, your arts discipline, your websites, anything like that, please pitch yourselves to the rest of us. That would be cool. And then we can kind of say hey and connect with each other. All right, let me start this. All right, can you all see this PowerPoint here? Chill. I know that this is a workshop on live streaming on the internet, but I'll be honest, I don't use Zoom too often. But anyway, all right, so let's get started. I think one of the biggest things right now when we're being an artist in this virtual world is sort of how can we translate and move our art from physical spaces, from, gosh, now I've lost everyone on the camera. Hold on a sec. There's everybody. This would be a great time if I had 2 monitors. Anyway, one of the things I think would be great right now would be how can we move our art from galleries, from museums, from concert venues, theater spaces, pop-up spaces, how do we move that into virtual spaces? And also, how can we compete for attention from people? In a sense, like how can we still communicate our messages to people? So even though social media and the internet is, I think, something that we all should have been experimenting with before the pandemic, it's obviously super important now. And if and when we do see the light at the end of the tunnel, when we get to have all of our live events again, anything that you learn right now during the pandemic will most likely be useful in the future. From the survey responses I got from everybody, it seems like there's a lot of like beginner level when it comes to social media. If I'm wrong on that, then please be patient as we kind of go through some of this again. But I think something I hear from a lot of people who are beginners is they get kind of frustrated with the internet, and it's sort of like a negativity, as in, why do we have to, I don't know, why do we have to use Instagram? Why do we have to do this? And I would say approach it like learning a language. Like, you might not know everything yet, but the more that you practice, the more that you use the apps, the more that you read it and study it, you'll get better. You'll become more fluent. And ultimately, it's not about like getting a bunch of followers or creating the best photos, but it's about sharing the gift of our art and music and theater and dance with people, especially now, because we all could use that escapism and that happiness. So today, here's a few of the topics that we'll be going a little bit more in depth into. And if I don't cover something that you were really wanting to know, this time at the very end, we're going to have about like a half hour, 40 minutes for open discussion and questions. Since this topic of social media, it's really impossible to kind of learn in 2 hours. So that would be a great time if you have further questions. I'm going to try and pull up this chat. My laptop screen's not big enough for me to see. There it is. Oh, great. Thanks, Darlene. Thanks, Shona. Curtis, Nick, Sherry. Thank you, everyone, for dropping in to the chat. All right. First up, we're going to talk about brand identity and how do you create either a personal brand or your business brand or maybe an organization brand. I'm not sure if there's a lot of organizations here today or if it's mostly individual artists. So again, if you want to drop that in the chat and let me know. Personally, I work with my own, I guess, personal brand, you could say. I have a band. I make music as Cinema Hearts. I also work with Arlington County Cultural Affairs, and I manage the Arlington Art Truck's social media, which does like pop-up arts events in Arlington County. And then another freelance thing I do is I do social media for a local documentary called Punk the Capitol. So I've had experience doing it as me and also as not me. All right, so what's a brand and how does it apply to us as artists? I would say the most accessible way to talk about your brand is it's your aesthetic. It's how you present your artistic self in the world. It could be, if you're an individual, your public persona. It's how you would describe yourself. You've probably heard elevator pitch. If someone were to say, so what do? You have something interesting that you can tell them about yourself and your art. It's the color and the images and the visuals that make up the world of your art, which you can then translate to the photography, the graphics, the logos that you would then put online. And it's also your voice, how you talk, the phrases and quotes that resonate with you, and that you can then translate into writing captions or maybe writing a bio or any other sort of written copy. And then it could also be considered a social media version of your artist statement, or maybe if you're part of a group, like a mission statement. I think a lot of the time, especially since I live my life online, it's very dehumanizing to think of yourself as a brand and to think of yourself as something that's like bought or sold, like Nike or Coca-Cola. So when it comes to artist brand, I really love to think of it as like your aesthetic. Like if you think about it, even before social media, artists like Salvador Dali, Yoko Ono, Prince, they had a brand, which was in a sense their aesthetic. All right, so why do we need to worry about a brand? I just want to make art. Well, it's like your calling card. Again, if I mention Frida Kahlo, what comes to mind might not be a specific image of her art, but you can imagine her personality, the types of symbols that she would use in her art, the types of form and color, that is sort of a part of her aesthetic, her brand, and it makes it memorable. And having a strong brand idea, it'll help you decide what to post, what's relevant, and how you can write about yourself. Since sometimes it's kind of difficult to write about yourself, but if you think of it as this is my public persona, or maybe I'm a theater major, I kind of think of it as a character. How do you write about it online, show it online? And most of the interactions we're all going to have with each other is not going to be in person, face to face. A lot of the time, I feel like people view my art or my music online. For example, I said I work with the Arlington Art Truck. A lot of my friends have not visited the art truck, but they'll tell me, I saw it online. It looked really cool. Lisa mentioned it at first that she saw what had been posted online. So it's very important to have a strong visual communication through whichever social media page you choose. All right, so how can we make our brand? How can we figure out what it is that we're going to then post online? And these are a few questions that you can think about, thinking about artists within your discipline and researching how they express themselves both through their art and through their social media. Let's see, I'm like moving my screen around all willy-nilly just so I can see everything in this. Another thing you can think about is what kinds of artworks do you like? What songs or books or movies, and like what do they have in common? You can make a mood board, whether it's old-fashioned, cutting out images from books or magazines, or maybe you do something digital like Pinterest. One thing I like to do, because I have a writing background, is I like to make a mind map of ideas, and I'll show you that on the next page. And also, I know there's going to be a lot of text in this PowerPoint. I'll send it out after. This is the longest PowerPoint I've ever made in my life, so it'll probably be one of the longer ones for you all to remember. So this is an example mind map that I made for Arlington Art Truck. And one thing you can do is you just kind of start at the center with your central idea and then branch off into other images or moods, the people that maybe you want to appeal to in your audience. Just brainstorm, write down so many different things, because then you'll finesse it into what then becomes your brand. So for Arlington Art Truck, a lot of people don't understand what that is, but the way I explain it to people is it's like an ice cream truck, or it's like a bookmobile. It's like a pop-up event. And when I think of those sort of words, I think surprise, it's fun, it's unexpected. And then to the left here, you can kind of see that's where I decided to branch off and think more like, what is the content that I then put out through this brand? Well, we have both art and science. What kind of colors do I associate with that? I do a lot of bright colors for art. I think of crayons. I think of maybe not kid so much, but like fun and joyful and having the freedom of imagination of childhood, if not being aimed specifically at children. But then also, how can I relate to adults? And there's that, we have a bit of like a science and innovation kick. It's funny, I think of Bill Nye and like the types of programming he did on his TV show when I think about art truck things, which is weird because the curator for the art truck had never heard of Bill Nye when I mentioned it to her. So let's move on here. Taking all of these ideas, just going to do a quick exercise. So let's say I'm sure all of us have thought about our brand or our art. So I just wanted to challenge you all. You can either write it down on your own, or you can add it in the chat here, to write 3 adjectives, 2 images, and 1 emoji symbol that would represent your brand. So the few that I came up with for the art truck was inventive, joyful, and friendly. Some images I think of are like the multicolored crayons and the color of that versus like the sleekness of chrome and science. And then I use the truck emoji all the time when I post about art truck. So I'm gonna just set a little timer for a couple minutes. And if you wanna write something down or share it in the chat, I would love to hear a couple of them just to kind of see where everyone is in terms of thinking about how they craft their brands. Oh, nice. Looking at Nick's here that he dropped in. Oops, there goes my timer. All right, and if that wasn't enough time, I totally encourage all of you to take on this sort of exercise at home, and also more than once, since obviously we all grow and change as artists. Does anyone else want to share theirs or like unmute themselves and talk a little bit about it? Anyone? Hi, Sherry.
Yeah, I
Hi.
didn't. Hi, where are you?
I would have to stop my screen.
I see you. Okay,
Let me see. I paused my screen share. I don't know if it shows me now, but
I see you. I see you.
all right.
I was just going to write something, but you'll save me the energy of writing.
Oh, that's fine. Totally. Okay. Yeah, do you want to share a little bit?
Yeah, can you see my little emoji? Oh, how do I can't,
oh, yeah, just
wait, I can't see myself. Wait a minute, let me move this over. I've
That's
been
fine.
moving it so I can read everybody's. Okay, let's see.
Oh, I love it. So that's fun. So do you use a lot of emojis on your phone itself?
Sometimes.
Sometimes?
Sometimes.
Yeah, because I was going to say, like,
there is a little artist emoji.
Yeah, a little artist palette, paintbrush. I'm sure we've all used that.
I would definitely like to create my own emoji.
I think that's great.
And somehow figure out how to put that into my phone would be really neat. So here's what I wrote.
Sure.
Intuitive, lighting the creative spark for others, affirming, giving permission. I'm an art teacher. I'm an art teacher.
I was gonna say
half and half. I support myself by my art and by my teaching, or let's say I did support myself.
Yeah, because I was gonna say, even if you did not tell me you were an art teacher, from those descriptions, like a sense of warmth and experience comes to mind. So if you all think about it that way, with these sort of words, because I'm sure you've all run into this when you like talk maybe you're at like a party, remember parties, or you're at like a business meeting and someone says, what do you do? And you say, oh, I'm an artist. They don't know what that means in real life. You know, or I tell someone, oh yeah, I'm a musician. They think I have a tour bus. Like, so, or they think that, I don't know, I would do like stadium rock, something like that. So having clear adjectives on what you specifically do as an artist, it helps people understand so much clearer. I wanted to spotlight Nick here, who drops it in the chat. As soon as I saw that you play accordion, one of my close friends plays accordion, and something about that instrument, it just makes me so happy. So I love that you wrote that it's energetic, and I love the jester's cap as an image. That's so creative and that's so unique, and I instantly kind of know what that means.
Right, I actually do wear a jester's cap in my juggling show. So it's also one of the one of the icons for my 30-minute Shakespeare book series. So it's definitely part of my branding.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's a like a Joker card emoji. That one's new. So I would say that one, since the sunshine.
Yeah, I'll look for that Joker card. I wasn't able to get emojis going on my chat.
That's okay. I thought it would be a fun exercise to do, since I know a lot of people don't explore all the different icons that are there. But something that we'll kind of get into a little later is that like emoji culture is so strong. Like that in itself is kind of a language. So picking out different symbols from like that emoji set can also help strengthen your brand. So I think I have some example ones. I must have taken it out of the slide. One of the ones I love to use, I love using the gold sparkle emoji because it's like glamour and magic. Anyway, so let's move on. We're going to talk about content. So what is content? It's anything that you post online that contributes to your brand, your marketing. So content would be like photos that you post on Instagram or Facebook. It's tweets you send out. It's videos you create. It's if someone else, let's say maybe like Fairfax Times, writes about something you did, that's content. And there's this phrase that says content is king. And you might have also heard the phrase as a content creator. I saw this tweet recently that was saying how now, since all of our artwork is going to be online, unfortunately, a lot of us have to become content creators, it's similar to being an artist, but I think it's also like a completely different way to approach creativity. Like it's more of in the vein of like maybe someone who does marketing as opposed to someone who creates avant-garde art, let's say. But content is king, and I think having more than enough content for you to choose from so you can then curate how you present yourself online is important. So these is just, I tried in PowerPoint to make like a sort of nice form to show off some different types of what you might consider content. And it really depends on your discipline and what social media sites that you want to focus on. But I guess 4 categories you could think of would be if it's an audio, if it's photo, if it's video, or maybe written form, like let's say you write an essay, or maybe you have a long form blog post. So for me, as a musician, a lot of my content is photo and video on Instagram. Obviously, it's also music, but you know, sometimes it costs a little bit too much to go to the recording studio. So that's like less of my content sometimes. And I also love to do writing. So those might be some buckets of my content. So how do we...
Caroline,
yeah,
sorry.
what's up?
I think, at least on my end, the PowerPoint is still on the exercise.
Really? Oh, because I stopped sharing. Well, let me go back. All right, let's see. Let me go back. Y'all could have interrupted sooner. All right, can you see it?
Yeah.
All right, great. Sorry about that, everyone. This is my first PowerPoint on a Zoom. All right, so as I said, content, king, so you can read that there. But let me go back to this form, or this graph, I guess you could say, this sort of organizational thing. And it just kind of shows what I wanted to do here is there's different forms of content, and maybe within that you have different categories. So let's say you're a visual artist. You probably do a lot of photos. So maybe you have a photo of your artwork itself, of your latest creation. Maybe you have behind the scenes, you're showing the process, you're showing, I don't know, maybe you're showing the lump of clay, and then your next photo is the finished ceramic. Maybe you do watercolor art and you sell that to somebody and they take a photo of it in their living room. How does that photo complement something else on your page? So thinking about different types of content, and it's also other types of content you could think of as maybe professional versus like the casual. So maybe a news organization does a professional news segment on your theater company. You would have that, but maybe you also just have like an iPhone video of a couple of cast members hanging out backstage. So it's fine to juxtapose all of those things together. All right, so how do we create content? Let's focus on photos. So I think the number one thing that would set apart someone who understands social media and is professional about it and they treat it like a part of their job is having high quality photos. So that's having photos that are not blurry. It's having photos that show really crisp images. One thing I see a lot is just people who would just snap photos without telling somebody. And it's like a photo of a person looking off in a random direction. So creating photos that have intent and that really want to get someone to stop and look at your content. So some tools to get those great photos. I would say if you're able, use a real camera. The camera that I use is a Canon G7X, so it's like a handheld, but also smartphones are totally fine. I would say if you're going to go the smartphone route and you notice that social media is really a critical part of your job, get the best phone that you can. So making sure, like, I don't know, if you're an iPhone user, like getting one that has a really good camera that was made within like the past couple of years. Or if that's outside your budget, ask a friend if they can come over and take some photos, or if you could just borrow their phone. That's not unusual to ask your friend who has the better phone to take a photo. Also, a quick tip is that the back lens of your phone, so the one that faces out, is a better quality than the selfie lens. So if you're taking, let's say you're, I don't know, with a friend and you want to take a photo together, you can either flip the phone around or use a tripod to use the rear camera instead. I've also noticed with phones, lighting makes an incredible difference. So if you're able to move your artwork or your photo subject to a well-lit space, that's going to give you much clearer detail than if you're trying to do it in the dark and you say, I'll make it brighter later. It's not going to look good. Also, some optional things, you might want to get a tripod, especially one with a phone holder, which you can get online. And something that I like to use is a ring light, or if you have studio lighting, that's also great. When I was early in the pandemic, back in March, I used like Home Depot clip-on lamps for my live streams until I got a ring light. So if you have some lights around your house, you can totally improvise. One tip also, which some people might not think about, stage your photos. So not every photo that you post online has to be this casual, impromptu, just happened to be here thing. A lot of it is planned and you make it look effortless. So be choosy about placement or poses or angles. Use interesting backgrounds. Maybe you're out and about. Let's say you're at an art museum. If there's something interesting there, use it as a background. You can do a selfie. As I said, it's usually better to have someone take your photo for the quality. And also, I think socially, it kind of sends the message like, you're important enough to have someone take your photo. And maybe this has happened to you all when you ask someone to take your photo and they just take a bunch, they hand your phone back to you and they say, I took like 50 and none of them turn out. It's better to take the time to adjust one great photo rather than just taking 20 without thinking. So you can direct somebody, say, hey, no, turn this way. Oh, I can't see the sign you're holding up. Can you lower it this way? Just tell them. You can direct it, or you can have that person take the photo, show you, and then you can restage as necessary. Also, no one does this anymore, but counting down is really helpful, especially for group photos, because then you know everyone's looking the same direction and is ready. So 3, 2, 1, cheese. It's corny, but it does work. All right, some other tips for getting photos. This is probably a little bit more applicable if you're going out and about rather than staging something at home. But always be ready to have your phone or your camera with you to take a photo at any event, and aim to get at least one good photo. So when I was doing more concerts, I used to have like maybe 1 or 2 concerts a month. And part of what I considered my job at that show was also getting really good photos and video, because then I would use that to promote my next concert or to promote my next event or what have you. It's especially useful now because, you know, you don't want to put in the effort to stage a photo. Go back in your archive, repost some old photos. You can do throwback pics. It's totally fine. Not everything that you post needs to be what's happening now in the moment. It could also just be really great photos of things that represent you as an artist. Also, another tip, if you're solo and maybe you're too shy to ask someone to take your photo, or maybe they're not doing a good job, you can get a tripod, set your phone or camera up to record a video, then go do your thing, and then later on you can just extract screenshots from that video and use those as photos. Also, a lot of events would have a professional photographer, so make sure to connect with them, say hi, get their email, get their Instagram, get their Facebook page, and tell that photographer that you want photos as soon as they're able to give them. So you can then post it on your website or post it on your social media. When it comes to editing photos, totally fine to use your phone. You don't need to do Photoshop or anything. It's not really trendy anymore to go overboard with filters. So having something that looks really clean is much more common now than to do like a lot of intense saturation, or I remember on Instagram, we used to have the toaster filter. That's not really the thing anymore. So be sure to adjust the brightness. Really bright, colorful, strong photos do really well on Instagram. If there's something in the photo that maybe you didn't catch in the moment, edit it out or crop out. Like things that I tend to crop out are like, if I'm outside, like signs, like I don't want this no parking sign in the background of my photo. So find a way to just erase it. And like I said, you don't have to go overboard with filters. These are a few apps. I think they're all available for free, except maybe Facetune. These are some that I've used on my iPhone, and I totally recommend looking into the App Store, figuring out what apps on there work for the type of things that you are putting out there. Every single photo that you see in the world is edited, and it is made to look better than real life. And that's not to say that what you need to make needs to be this unrealistic standard, but I think it's that people have become so normalized and desensitized to it that they now accept that as the standard. So just something to think about if you have your followers scrolling through their feed and you want them to stop on your image, you want it to look, in a sense, competitive. And I'm just going to go through a few photo content ideas. And a lot of these, I kind of like separated by discipline, but there's a lot of overlap. So let's say you're a visual artist, and here's some ideas. So you could do your artwork, whether it's finished, whether it's in the process. You can do photos of you with your art in the studio with other artists. I think one incredibly cool thing for a visual artist is doing videos of the process. So maybe that's a time-lapse video where you set up your camera and then you start painting on a canvas, and you can kind of speed it up to show how it went from a blank canvas to something in the end. TikTok is really, really popular right now for creators for that reason. It shows like the process of how you would create a work of art. And then here's some for, let's say you're a theater company. So showing not only the finished product, the production photo, but show the process, show sketches of the set, and then maybe show a photo of the finished thing. Show how a costume goes from the sketch to a sample to the fitted look. So you want to kind of milk your entire artistic process. And I know for a lot of us, we kind of consider it old hat. Like, I'm no longer starstruck by a recording studio or by a museum, but to a lot of your followers, that's incredibly exciting. For a lot of them, they've probably never seen what a backstage at a theater looks like. So to be able to bring your followers into this experience, the entire experience, not just the finished product, is really special. And it makes them feel like they're a part of your journey. So here's some, let's say you're a musician. Musicians tend to be pretty good at this one. I think because we rely a lot on fans. So, you know, showing you in the studio versus you practicing at home versus you in a concert. Maybe since we're now doing a lot of live streams as opposed to in person, you're showing, I don't know, maybe a screenshot from your Zoom concert and you have you and your bandmates all in a four corners like the Brady Bunch. And then let's say you do teaching. One thing that like grinds my gears is when I see like a lot of photos of like kids online. So I always think it's incredibly important to, you know, protect their privacy, ask parents. If kids are old enough to have an opinion, ask them. Because I know a lot of kids now, it's like they've been raised in front of the camera. One trick I like to do is you can just show hands. So, you know, showing, let's say like kids' hands on the piano or like holding like a paintbrush. You can show a program from, let's say, a student recital, show what the repertoire is. I mean, in that case, you probably want to make sure like names are cut off or you can blur them out. You can show students' finished artwork. Maybe it's hanging in a gallery or at a school. And then you can also do photos of you with other teachers. Maybe it's you with parents and other consenting adults who want to be in a photo. All right, let's get into video. So like with photos, you want your video to be high quality. It might be a little bit more complicated with video, but I would totally recommend if you're going to go more of like a YouTuber route, you want a real camera, a real mic, you want solid lighting, and you probably want to get an editing software. Personally, I use Adobe Premiere. For a long time though, I used like a bootleg of Windows Movie Maker. I know Macs also have a free program. I cannot remember it. I'm a PC user, but there are some free video editing softwares out there. All right. And then types of video content. I know there were some questions in my survey about YouTube, which I think I'm going to save for the very end just because I'm curious to know what everyone's specific questions are when it comes to YouTube channels. But I think YouTube in general is really underutilized by artists. You don't need to be a constant churning out a video every week creator. You can just have a few, and maybe it's really high quality. Maybe you collaborate with a filmmaker who makes a documentary about you in your studio and your artwork. Or maybe you're a theater company and you're going to do like a 2-minute, 1-minute, like a commercial or a summary of your latest play. So YouTube tends to be highly polished. You can do more long form media. It's really great now to utilize YouTube because we can't always interact in person. So when I'm doing Arlington Art Truck, I've started to do more video content for them, since a lot of our premise and our brand was built upon in-person interactions. You got to meet the artist, like the artist would teach you how to paint a watercolor. We can't do that nowadays, but we can do a YouTube video of perhaps that artist showing you at home how to do it. If you kind of think maybe like Bill Nye, Mr. Rogers, like how can you do that lesson, that interaction in video form? If YouTube is a little bit too much for you, I totally recommend doing Instagram and Instagram stories, which is much shorter and much more user-friendly. You can just use your phone and record. Someone also had mentioned that they were interested in TikTok, which I think is great. And I think a lot of the similar strategies that you would use like on Instagram stories can apply. Things to keep in mind when you're making these videos. Hold on, I'm gonna get some water here. You wanna make sure you have a good aspect ratio. So that's whether your video is vertical, horizontal, or square. So you might have seen like on Facebook, there was like a trend for a while where people were really against whether vertical videos were posted, and now vertical video is all the rage. Most of these apps, with the exception, I would say, well, I guess Instagram sort of does. All of them can adapt to any ratio, but if you want the best engagement, you want to kind of plan it ahead of time. So you might all be familiar with how Instagram is the square. You can't always crop your video correctly to fit a square. So maybe you think to yourself, I want my video to be on my Instagram grid, so I'm going to edit it as a square as opposed to editing it in a horizontal 1920 by 1080 and then adjusting it to a square. And some other quick tips for video. I love adding captions. I just think it's not only useful for all types of people, but I think it just kind of sends a message that you care about your viewer, your listener. And if you have questions about any of these specific things, there's a lot of great tutorials online and on YouTube, especially for like teaching artists or nonprofit organizations. I think adding captions, it sends a further message about your brand that you're all about accessibility, you're all about communication. You want to have a really great thumbnail. So the thumbnail is the cover image that appears on your video. So when you're like looking on YouTube on a list, you'll see a bunch of thumbnails. You want that to be something that gets people to click. So that might mean crafting a specific graphic or image, or making it to be something that looks like a person in action. You want to get them to click. Also, you want to use royalty-free music, because there's been issues in the past where if you put, I don't know, like an Ariana Grande song, your video could be muted, or it could be taken down, or it could be demonetized. So to avoid all that, just use royalty-free music. A lot of it's available online for free. All right, so let's get into social media. I think one question you need to ask yourself before you just willy-nilly go into social media, why do you want to use it? What's your goal? Because there's a lot of different reasons why people will want to go and use a certain app. So maybe your goal is you want an online portfolio. Then you would have a different strategy. I would say you'd post high quality photos of your art, your latest commission. As captions, write the story behind your artwork. Maybe you put some stories about why art is really important to you. You can put photos of your studio. You can show the process of making a piece and the finished work. I also think if you're using social media only as an online portfolio, then you don't really need to update it as often. It's kind of more of like a landing page. Let's say you want to use it to network and you want to advance yourself. In that case, you really kind of have to be on it, constantly connecting with people. So that means like following and engaging with different booking agents or curators, people who are within your creative field. Follow them online, like their tweets. You don't have to like be that kind of obnoxious person who's only following them to try and get something back. You know, make it genuine if you genuinely like the work they do. If you're at an in-person meetup in the future, share your website with other people. Swap your Instagram with another person. If you're going to be doing something like what we're doing today, which is a Zoom room, drop your links in the chat, look everyone up later. What I've done at a lot of different events is I'll just write down people's names of who I meet at a certain event. I'll look them up online later. I'll send them a message to say, hey, it was nice to meet you. Sort of like, I guess it's like a strategy people say you do on LinkedIn, but you can also apply that to Facebook, to Instagram, to Twitter. And on your own personal page, you want to show off the things that you're doing. It's like what they say about acting, like you want to be like that casting director's answer to their question. In a sense, if let's say you're pitching yourself to certain galleries to get your art on an exhibition, then you want to make sure that your social media page has your incredible artwork. So when you do connect with that curator and they look you up, they see the things that you're doing and then they're interested. They want to connect with you further. Let's say you want to sell your art. This was a common question that showed up in my survey. And thanks to everyone who was able to contribute to that, by the way. If you want to sell your art, then your online store is going to be a big, big priority. I think sometimes what I notice happens is people will set up an online store and then it just kind of fades to the background. Like they just kind of passively hope that someone will stumble upon it and then buy a work of art. And that can totally happen, but also you can be intentional about it. You can be a salesperson about it. If you think about it in one way, people who buy your artwork, they're also buying from major companies. And I think those consumers, in a sense, kind of expect a similar, I guess, quality or a standard. Like I remember a long time ago, there was this band I really loved, and I ordered, I think it was like a 7-inch EP from them, from their Bandcamp store. And it took months to arrive. And I had emailed them like, hey, I think you forgot my order. And they did. And, you know, of course I'm forgiving because I understand they're a human, they're a person. But at the same time, as a consumer, I was like, well, I could have bought a CD from Target and gotten it instantly. Why can't I buy this piece of merch from you and also get it in a timely manner? So having an online store, it's definitely, yes, someone dropped their online store. Good for you, Susan. It's definitely something you want to make sure that you have it as an important part of your business. If you're active on social media and you have your online store, make sure that you have a link to it in your profile. Make sure you include in your bio that you do have things for sale. Maybe you're out and about in the world, so you tell someone you're an artist, and you could also tell them like, I have things for sale, because a lot of the time people only think of an artist as someone who showcases in a museum, not someone who maybe sells prints at a reasonable price. We talked about this a little bit earlier, but you can stage photos. So maybe you want to see your sculpture in someone's living room and they're television is there and their cat is there. That kind of gives your consumer an idea of how your work of art is going to look in their living space. Another thing, like let's say you make jewelry or you make something wearable, showcase it on a person. That would also be a really cool opportunity if you're able to maybe like loan it to someone who's like an influencer or like a model type and say, hey, can you take a photo with my jewelry, with my merch, whatever, and tag me in the photo? That could be a really good way to get people to go to your online store. Also, I think email newsletter, it sounds quaint, but it's still really effective. I know I love following my favorite creators on their newsletter because it feels much more personal. Oops, go to the next slide. All right, so let's say you do events. And some of this on here is kind of more applicable to if you're doing something not online. So as you see, I put IRL, in real life events. One of my pet peeves is when I want to go to an event or I want to learn more and I click on the Facebook event or the website, what have you, and not all of the information is listed. Like, I don't know where it is. I don't know what time it is. They wrote the date wrong. Maybe they said it was for, I don't know, Saturday, February 19th, but actually February 19th is a Sunday. Now I'm confused. Is it the 18th or 19th? So always double check that everything is listed on your event pages. And if for some reason something isn't, and a person maybe like asks a question, let's say they put it in like the discussion of the Facebook event, answer it. Also, always include ticket prices. And if there's anything that people need to be aware of, maybe age range, whether something's appropriate for children or it's for adults, what have you. If you're doing ticketed events and you're doing it in person, not virtually, accept a wide range of payment options. It's always a little bit frustrating if, let's say, I want to go to see this performance, but they only take cash or check, and I can't give them my credit card. Or maybe you are only going to do pre-order tickets. Someone can't buy at the door, but maybe I want to decide last minute, I want to come. So make sure that you keep it flexible for all different types of customers and patrons, because ultimately they want to give you their money to go see what you're doing. But if you make it complicated, they're just going to get frustrated and not go. Another thing that I think is applicable in this area is transportation and parking. If you know about parking at your venue, or you know what the nearest bus stop is, you know what the nearest metro station is, include that either on your website or in the event information. Because, I mean, this used to happen to me a lot. I would think, oh, this show is at 7, I'm going to leave at 6:30. And then I didn't know that there's no parking at the venue. And now I've missed my show. And now I just want to go home. We want to prevent that. So just be as thorough as possible. I remember something a theater director once told me, which was that your audience members' experience, it doesn't start when the curtain rises. It starts the moment they leave the house. So if they run into traffic, if they want to buy snacks, but you don't have a concession stand and they're hungry and they're watching your show and now they're cranky, you could have had the most beautiful performance, but that your audience member is going to think, oh, I did not have a good time. So you want to make sure that you can make things as comfortable as possible for people. Obviously, not everything's within your control, but doing your best. All right, let's say you want to use social media to share a message for activism, or to get like a bigger message about a nonprofit or maybe about education out there. You want to create like really, I guess you could say, like great stories for people to connect to, really touch into that like emotional side of things. If you want someone to take action, Create really easy to understand, simple steps. I don't know if a lot of you follow like Americans for the Art or National Endowments for the Art online, but they have really great like graphics, and they create really easy to understand things. So I love following them online to know, all right, how do the arts apply to civic issues, let's say. And also on your social media, you probably want to cover current events and news items that relate to your platform. So let's say like right now, maybe you talk about on your social media how small venues are not doing great and that we need to support them like a small business. So maybe you encourage your clients and customers to, gosh, I don't know, like donate to a certain program at your theater, or maybe you encourage them to buy this t-shirt and you're giving the proceeds to like the Save Our Stages organization. You can do sort of things like that. And then, of course, I had to put it in here. Maybe you want to use social media because you want to be famous and you want to go viral, and that's okay. If that's the case, you are going to be treating social media like your job. And I honestly would argue that even if you aren't trying to like be quote, quote famous, you probably at least want to be known locally. Like maybe you want to be known as the best dance company in Northern Virginia. You want to be known as the most inventive sculpture in the DC area, or sculptor, or sculpture. You then still need to social media. You can't just log on once a month and expect magic to happen. There's like this phrase that a lot of influencers use, like you have to be on the grind, you have to be on the hustle. I don't think you have to like push yourself so hard, but thinking about how it's going to be as important as sitting down to practice your craft. If you're trying to be someone who's more of a public figure and a personality icon, I think you can afford to be much more sassy and fun and less professional. You definitely want to stay up to date on the latest trends and the latest memes and the latest apps. If you want to make viral content, then, I mean, I wish I had the tips for you. It's easier said than done. But you definitely have to kind of be able to capture like the cultural zeitgeist at the right moment. You have to be someone who's constantly churning out really fun, inquisitive things. Also, you probably want to post every day. As I said, like influencers grind. They're putting out a photo in the morning and the evening every single day. And they are crafting their images and their captions to be something that gets people to click. So these are some popular social media apps. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of them. The one that I'm primarily going to be talking about today is Instagram, because I feel like a lot of it applies to other apps. When I was crafting this PowerPoint, I felt like it was honestly just like my plea to artists to say, please stop using Facebook pages. It's not getting you anywhere. Just move to Instagram already. For example, as I mentioned, I run Punk the Capitol, which is a documentary, and it's toured internationally. It's very, very popular. They have 11,000 followers on Facebook, 11K. Our engagement is like 3 likes per post. Facebook pages just don't engage like they might have 10 years ago, honestly. But on our Instagram page, where we have only about 2,000 followers, we get an average of 100, 150 likes per post. So the engagement ratio is way better on our Instagram versus our Facebook. Anyway, let's get into some general social media tips. Big question of the day, how do you get good at social media? Just use it. Honestly, I know there's like this sort of like negative connotation to just sitting on your phone and scrolling through. That's research. So, you know, spending time, I feel like I spend like an hour or two a day just scrolling through Instagram. What are other people posting? What are other artists doing? Are there any opportunities out there that they're having a call for artists? Spending time, and let's say maybe you don't want to do it every day. Do it once a week. Maybe it's on like Sunday or something. To scroll through, experiment, try out new features and filters and video ideas. Oops. So as I said, thinking about what are your favorite accounts for different artists or brands, galleries, art groups, and you want to look at not only local things to Northern Virginia or DC or the East Coast, but look at what is an artist in Utah doing? What is an artist from Europe doing? How are they reaching their audiences? Because the thing you have to think about is the cool thing about social media is anyone in the world can follow you. Like, for example, I've had someone from New Zealand discover my live streams and he became like a super fan. That never would have happened in like a normal traditional concert setting unless I was flying all the way across to the other part of the world. So look at what other artists within your discipline and maybe even beyond your discipline are doing. Like, for example, I love following gaming Instagrams and Twitters and YouTube channels because they have a really cool approach to live stream. And I want to adopt what they do on their live streaming to my music live streaming. Also look at how do these different artists or brands or people, how do they write their captions? What kinds of photos do they post? And how can you then do that? And also, what are they doing now during COVID? All right. One of the big things and phrases I like to say is you want to attract eyeballs with your social media. You've probably seen friends, or maybe you yourself, you're just scrolling through and then you stop on a certain post. What is it about that post that gets you to stop? Is it they have a really interesting caption that tells a story? Is it that the photo is really crisp? Maybe it's like a really funny thing. And it's getting to a point for me where I've kind of recognized my audience and I can look at a photo that I'm thinking about posting and I can guess whether it's going to stop people and get them to look or not. So you kind of want to have that same sort of, I guess, self-awareness, you could say, about the images that you post. And in order to get a great feed and attract those eyeballs, as I said, you want it to be high quality. You want to be consistent in your posts. So let's say you post once a week or so, and you have a really great image or story or what have you. You also want to make sure that all of the images on your feed relate to one another in terms of their aesthetic and look. You want it to be fun. Obviously, social media is a place where people go to kind of like explore the world from wherever they are. And us as artists, we're creating a really beautiful world, whether it's within our own communities or maybe it's within our own studio. We want to go on Instagram or wherever and see what you're making. You also want it to be authentic. So not just posting random stock photos that you found online or stolen memes or quotes. I see this a lot from like arts organizations where they'll just post like, I don't know, like a generic photo of someone who has nothing to do with their company, but it represents their art somehow, like an event. Post real people who really attend and participate with your programs. Let's see. I know we're getting close on time, so I'm actually going to skip ahead to just talk about the algorithm. And I guess this one other thing. I stalked a few of you online, I'll be honest. I think one of the biggest critiques I would say is combining too much of your personal life with this business life. So it's totally okay to, you know, post a pet photo or post a photo of your kids every once in a while, but keep it on brand. If you want to sell your artwork, but you're posting like photos of what you cooked for dinner, that doesn't register to me as your follower. What are you trying to sell me though? So if you're someone who also uses social media to connect with close friends and family, you probably want to make a separate account and keep that one private, so that way it's different from clients or business partners or curators. And you also want to make sure that if you're creating a business account, that it's public and that you can easily explain to a stranger what your social media is about. Because most of the time they don't know you personally, so they might not get like an inside joke you posted, or they might not understand what your art is about if you didn't include it in your caption. So make sure you're explaining it to someone who doesn't know you personally. Let's see, give credit to anyone you collaborate with. I'm sure a lot of visual artists here say that. This is probably most applicable to organizations who have more than one person running your account. I've seen it fairly often where maybe you're trying to search for a certain theater company, or I've seen this a lot with like college groups, like college radio stations. You go online, there's like 4 different pages, because over time someone has left the company or graduated and they didn't pass on the password, and now we're starting over and we've created a new account. So if you have a group social media, make sure that it's connected to an email address that you have access to in case you need to get the password. You want to make sure no one's going to hack into it. So using 2-factor authentication, that's when they'll like text you a number and you type it in. You can also use an authenticator app. Use a random password. Don't just like use, I don't know, art is fun 321, and that's your password. You wrote it on a yellow sticky note. It's on someone's computer. Don't do that. You can use a random password generator and a password manager software. And if someone leaves your social media team, change the password. Even if you trust that person and it's all great, change it anyway, just in case. One thing I really want to talk about is the algorithm. So a social media algorithm, this is how content's organized and delivered in a feed is according to a user's preference. It's based on their behavior and personal data. I am an artist. The internet probably knows that I love seeing arts content. So arts content is constantly pushed to a viewer like me. I don't really see a lot of, let's say, sports on my Instagram page. And that's because of the algorithm. So all of us as creators, we have to create our content with this algorithm in mind. So let's say when I post something on Instagram, I'm making sure that it's something that people will respond to immediately, because how many likes and comments you get within like the first few moments is going to impact how high your content is pushed to people's feeds. I probably would not post at 5 a.m. or really late on a Saturday night, because I don't know who's looking at their phones then. So thinking about how you can craft your post ahead of time before it actually goes live is a really good skill that over time you will develop. You might not be able to figure it out now because you're still experimenting with your content. But again, the best way to learn how to do it, just start posting. And different content gets different types of engagement. This is like a very strange thing as an artist, I think, but photos with people in it do better than photos of objects. So maybe some of you who are visual artists have noticed this. If you take a photo of, let's say, a painting you did, that might get different types of engagement than if you did it of yourself holding a painting. And that's because the algorithm prioritizes faces. The algorithm also does not prioritize text posts. So let's say you're an arts group, nonprofit, and you put a flyer up that has all this text on it, and you're confused. Why did it get only 7 likes? Because it has text, because it's not being pushed to people. And also, I doubt this is for a lot of us here, but like algorithms will reject posts that have any swearing or any questionable content. So keep that in mind if you're doing something like, I don't know, if you're doing a production of hair, be mindful of what you're posting to promote it. And every app is different. Every app has a different algorithm. It has its own culture. It has its own language. So what you post on Facebook will be a completely different writing style than what you would post on Twitter. So if you're someone who wants to use more than one platform, it does not always work to regurgitate and copy paste the same thing to every single platform. You kind of want to tailor it a bit. And again, how can you learn the language of each app? Just start using it and start following people who you think are successful on there. All right, we talked a little bit about this to get engagement. To get followers, I would honestly say have a great feed. Tell people to follow you. So anytime you're doing an exhibition or a concert, tell every audience member there to follow you. You can find us on Instagram at wherever. If you have print handouts, have your social media on there. This is like my pet peeve about working for Arlington Art Truck. I don't design our print handouts, and the person who does never has our Instagram handle on there. So it's very difficult for me when I'm talking with somebody and I'm trying to tell them, hey, follow us online, but I don't have it on our handout. It's not consistent. I don't think we're going to have time to go through Instagram too in depth, but I'm going to skip ahead and just show like an example. So these are 3 accounts that I manage. So it's my personal one for my band. It's the Arlington Art Truck. It's Punk the Capital. One thing I noticed when I was looking up a lot of you on Instagram is that this bio space, the link space, it wasn't being used. And that's a great spot to push whatever you are selling. So if you have an online shop, put your link in there. If you have a video you just put out, put the link there. In your bio, you can put Fairfax-based artist, maybe your medium. If you are looking for commissions, you can add that to your bio. DM for commissions, or always looking for collaborations, send me a message. Use this space. And then I'm going to skip ahead to show a feed. So another thing I've noticed, you want to make sure that your feed tells a consistent story. So even though I'm the one who put together all of these posts, they kind of have 3 different color schemes, 3 different stories, but they all relate to each other. So when someone who's new visits one of these pages, they get a sense of what the shared brand and shared aesthetic is. Let's see. I think I'm going to open it up for questions because there's a lot in here, and I want to make sure that if anyone has specific questions, we can kind of get to it. I know this was a lot of info in a very short amount of time, so I'm planning to send out this PowerPoint, but if anyone has questions, let's get into it for like the next 40 minutes.
Yes, thank you, Caroline, for that really helpful presentation.
Yeah. I hope it's not overwhelming. I'm sure a lot of you are probably like, this is so much. One big thing I will say, I learned all of this through both looking it up on YouTube and Google and also trial and error. So again, the biggest advice I could tell is just get started, just start. I'm sure a lot of you tell your students that you just have to, put the pen to paper and get going. All right, does anyone have questions or maybe something else that you want to specifically go into a little more deeply?
Let's see. Oh, I see Janet has her hand raised, so I'll go ahead and unmute you.
Hey, Janet.
Hi, how are you? Thank you so much, Caroline. This was really helpful. But the one thing I'm hoping you can just touch on a little bit, I think it was in your original notes, is this idea of how do you monetize? Like if you're doing a virtual concert or performance, how do you feel? I mean,
yeah,
I'm with the dance company. I understand live performance, but we're struggling with this. We've been doing it pretty much for free right now because we don't know. How do you think about
right,
what you charge?
I think it's tricky, especially now, to ticket live streams because everyone expects it to be free.
Right.
You know, I would say in your case, it might be worthwhile to look into grants and seeing if any local arts organizations are able to provide your company with a grant to then create content. It's something I've been fortunate to do as a solo musician during the pandemic. So again, and you can look at my bio, but there was like a list of different companies who I partnered with. They gave me a grant to create content. So where are you based specifically?
We're in Alexandria.
Okay.
And actually that's what we've been relying on this year. We've had some great donations. And so we've been able to offer performances, but in terms of long term,
right?
So what you're really relying on, it sounds like, is this sort of outside funding source that allows you.
Because I mean, and it's something I was really, I'll be honest, I was kind of struggling to think about as I was planning this because I'm just not. I feel like in order to create a great live stream, it also takes an investment. So like, do you, as your dance company, do you have like an in-house like videographer or camera and things like that?
We have just connected with someone who does streaming, and she's been volunteering her time. I mean, it's all right now, so much volunteer, which I think is great right now. But if this pandemic goes on, or these limitations go on for 6 months, another year, then it's just good to think about how.
I mean, I would also, so you can do like, as a foundation, you can do something like Eventbrite and then sending out the private link. But I would recommend thinking about how can live stream and video in your dance be different than stage. So maybe your dancers are in front of a green screen and it's only an experience that I, as a viewer, can see through video. So one thing you have to think about if you're selling tickets for a live stream performance, I think audience members have this idea like it's going to be like a watered down version, or like, why would I pay to watch them? I can see it free on YouTube. You want to make an experience that can only be viewed through this medium. So maybe, and maybe for you, it's not live. Maybe that's like too much, but maybe it's like a video movie. Maybe your dancers are on location, I don't know, in the streets of Old Town Alexandria. And we've created this beautiful film. And we just ask for you to donate, like suggest a donation of $10 to view the film this weekend only, something like that. Like making this sense of exclusivity and of something that is incredibly special, as opposed to, oh, we're just going to do what would have been our spring concert, and here's like a one camera version, which is also fine, but it might be a harder sell.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, in terms of, I think I like this idea of making it sort of, because what we have done is moved outside. That's absolutely what we've done. Gone to parts of Alexandria and filmed dances that you just wouldn't see on stage, but then and we've posted it for free, and we're totally happy to do that.
Would you, and you also, you said you include your donation link.
But that's what we haven't thought about. And that's where I think.
Because another option, instead of having it ticketed, post it for free, but include your donation link and include, saying like, it's really tough for us to sustain ourselves as a company. We put in like 60 hours of rehearsal to give you this great gift. We're so happy to share it for free, but we also ask for like a suggested donation of $25 if you want to see more content or something like that. Or maybe you post a free version that's shorter, and if they want to see more, then it's paid.
Okay. No, that's a great idea. We didn't think about posting a donation link.
Oh, no, for sure. Yeah. And that's something I did have in my PowerPoint. And like I said, I'm going to send that out to everyone to like view on your own. That's a very common thing that musicians have been doing. We call it virtual tip jar.
Okay.
So as an individual, I have like my PayPal link linked to my website, but maybe if you're an organization, you have a more formal donation page.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm gonna check house concerts. I'm gonna assume, Curtis, you mean house concert as in like I'm here live streaming to the world, as opposed to like house show. I have a bunch of people in my small basement. Yeah, okay. Again, as I sort of said to Janet, I think for live stream house concerts, making it special. One thing that I love doing when I do my live stream concerts is I encourage everyone to use the chat. I love talking to people on the chat. So maybe, and you might have noticed this too, Curtis, when like maybe your friend tunes in and you can say to them like, oh, hey Clay, what's up? Thanks for tuning in. Or, hey, do you guys have you all heard of this song? Drop in the chat the songs you want to hear, and responding to people, because that's something you don't get at a traditional concert. You normally don't have like the front person at a normal rock show talking to the crowd like it's an intimate thing, but that's something live streaming does. Other fun things I've done on my live stream, normally I have a lot of like tinsel, like a background. If you have great internet in an unusual location, you could film. Maybe you connect with a local coffee shop. They have a really cool background and you can live stream from there. Maybe it's Halloween coming up. You're going to live stream from in a costume. One of my friends, I'll drop his name here, Justin Trewick, has been doing like a live stream concert every Thursday and Sunday, and he kind of treats it like a variety show. I don't have the energy to do it weekly, but if you're someone who does, maybe you do a once a month live stream or a once a week. I tend to do it as a when I feel like it thing. But those are a few tips that I have for that. Yeah. All right. Any others?
Yeah, I see Sherry has her hand raised. So Sherry,
all right,
go ahead and unmute you.
Thank you.
Hey, Sherry.
Actually, I've been grieving the loss of my students for the last 8 months.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been very hard for me to figure out what next. I've been teaching in my home studio for 15 years every day after school with a very intimate group of 20 students, from just a few families. The hard part for me is to figure out how to teach art in the way I feel I invented, which is not copy me. It's come together and create intimate space where we share in the first 15 minutes what's going on in our lives in a very private way before we create art together.
And
so,
does the medium of art matter? Or like what kind of medium do you...
This has been the other thing, is that when I teach, it's what I get excited about each week. It's different artists. Sometimes we will be drawing on the ceiling with bamboo poles, with charcoal on them, when we're talking about Henri Matisse. And I put each child in bed. We make a bed, we take care of Matisse, and he draws on the ceiling, which is very difficult. Or we talk about Yayoi Kusama, and I do an obliteration room. I block out the entire room, make it white, and hand children all kinds of polka dots, which we put everywhere.
Yeah.
So now to go
that
online, here's my worry. Okay, I think I've ruled out Zoom. I also have grandchildren who are artists, and I know at the end of the day, they are so burned out by Zoom. I do not want to let children have any more time online and feel that. So what I'm doing is I've created a few videos, but they're truthfully, watch me do this. And I keep trying in the video to say, you don't have to draw the bunny. You can draw whatever you want to draw. Or, so my thought was, and I think you answered some of this, Caroline, my thought is to do videos and somehow figure out how to draw the creativity. But what's going to be missing are the $5,000 worth of art supplies that I purchase every year for those children, which are all professional grade materials which go from metal to sculpture.
So,
to
if you don't mind if I interrupt, for one thing, I think the idea of doing like a group therapy, but through art, that is so incredibly needed right now. Like, I am excited to just even hear about that. One thing we've been doing with Arlington Art Truck, because we had the same sort of issue, we do events that require like human interaction and in a sense like human touch too. We have been doing take and make kits. So like we've assembled, like our current project is sculpting with clay. So we have all the materials that we then put in a nice like paper bag. We have the instructions with it. We have a link to where our videos are, and then we pass those out to people. So maybe in your case, since you do have these supplies, maybe you're able to assemble them in, maybe it's like a nice box or a nice bag. And you also have, maybe it's like you can do like, if you have a time, like handwritten letter, like just encouraging that young artist that you include in there. And then you're able to distribute.
I probably need to talk to you privately at some point.
Oh, sure.
Because there's so much to this.
And I would also ask, how old are your grandkids that you said are artists?
Right now, 8 and 12 and 15 and 14 and 16.
Okay, I would say maybe even for the older ones, ask their opinion. And see if maybe they would like to help you out a little bit. I think, and this was something I didn't get a chance to touch on a little bit, but if we're feeling overwhelmed, whether it's running our social media or putting out this video or doing this or that, totally fine to either hire help or ask someone for help. I think social media and video is a great opportunity for like teenage and college age people to be able to kind of hone in their skills. I know when I was in high school, I loved helping out with this sort of thing. So it might be a great way to get some help in that respect. But yeah, I hope that sort of like answer your question. You're welcome to email me a little bit further on that. But it is difficult right now that a lot of us have to like adapt in a sense, like our business practice and our artistic practice to match these spaces. But if you don't feel comfortable on Zoom, I would never force anyone to be in a Zoom they didn't want to be in, like, you know.
Having trouble sitting still right now.
Right. And maybe if it's something you feel comfortable with, maybe it's being in like, maybe it's having smaller groups and being in a bigger space where you all can do an art project together, but you're still observing like CDC recommendations and guidelines. Maybe, I don't know, like I said, if you do video and yeah, I'm just repeating myself here, but I like sort of how adapting.
YouTube idea?
Oh, I think YouTube's great.
But I would make it private, right? Just for
I think it would depend. You would technically, the setting you would want is unlisted. That means you share the link and it's only viewable to people with that link.
Okay.
Yeah, I think if this is a project where it's intended for a select group, make it unlisted. If it's though something that you want to share with the world, I think you can adapt it to be a public video. That's maybe something that anybody in the world, anybody at any time beyond the pandemic could use to find like some joy and some solace.
Now, one more question.
Okay.
How many videos would you suggest a person have before they actually get onto the YouTube channel?
I mean, you could just put up one video to start. I kind of get what you're saying. I mean, again, I wouldn't overthink it that much. I would just say, put up your one video and then maybe you push yourself to make one video a month, or maybe it's one every 2 weeks. And if it's that you want to actually build a YouTube channel, then maybe you tell your followers, hey, every Tuesday I upload a video. And then I want you to send me your comments. And every Friday I make a different video responding to your comments. I would say in your case, start watching YouTube videos and watch like other artistic forms that have used video as a medium. Like, I don't know, Sesame Street. That's not live stream, but that was definitely something I grew up on that taught me arts and creativity through a screen.
Wonderful suggestion. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Any other questions people have or things that they want to like talk more about?
Yeah, we can give everyone like maybe another minute or so. I know for some people it might take a second to think.
I'm also happy to return back to my planned presentation and maybe pick one subject because I know there's like a half hour left, or if people are busy, we can see what happens.
Yeah. I'm thinking maybe if we can touch a little more on the monetization. Since
Yeah.
It must have gotten some more questions.
For sure. Let me pull that up here. See, what happened to the share screen bar? Oh, there it is. All right.
Yes, my queen.
Okay, can you all see this here? Great. All right. I'll be honest, and this sort of touches on Janet's question. It's hard to monetize if you don't already have like a set portfolio online. Like if you think about it this way, why would, maybe I am a museum curator, maybe I'm a customer, why would I buy or invest in something if I don't know what you do or I don't know what you make? So I think, and it sounds like a lot of you are kind of starting to do this. Before you start monetizing it, have some really incredible free content. And that's like maybe on your example, on your webpage. Like, for example, I recorded one of my recent live streams that I did. And it was like the best one I've done. I've done some bad ones, but that one was really good. So I uploaded it to YouTube and I've embedded it on my website. And it says, watch a virtual home concert. And so anytime I'm pitching myself to a potential arts organization who maybe will give me a grant, or maybe someone wants to hire me for like a private Zoom live stream concert thing, I can send them that video and say, hey, here's an example of what I've done. And you can kind of expect that when you hire me, it's going to look like this. And in addition to that, you want to be building your following online. You want them invested their attention into you and what you're making. And by building a loyal following, you don't need thousands of casual followers. You don't need all that. You need like a solid group of super fans who will buy anything that you put out because they want to see you succeed. So it's also, even though it's important to get like a huge following, you want to foster those connections with the people who are liking every single post, who are commenting on every single thing, who are asking you, when's the next show? When's the next whatever? All right. Like I said, one question I've been getting a lot is online shop. I'll be honest, I'm a musician, so I really just use Bandcamp, but I've also worked with a lot of visual artists. And I'm gonna, before I get into online shop, I kind of want to show one of my friends. Let's see. If any of you know the artist Paul Short, he does graphic design. And this was like an Instagram post he put up. So it shows a product that he made, that he sells, showing it in action. And he also here has the caption where he tells a story, talks about himself, and he also has a pitch. You can find this that you see on my Instagram page in my shop. The link's in my bio. So and also Paul posts things like this all the time. There's a saying that you have to post something like 7 times before somebody takes action on it. So if you just post one photo of an item in your shop and then you never talk about your shop again for the next 3 months, odds are not a lot of traffic is going to be driven to your online shop. But if you, in every single post you make, you have like an honest, authentic, fun story, and then you also have a call to action. Hey, visit my online shop, link in my bio. Or maybe it's, hey, donate to our artist fund here, links in our bio. That is encouraging people to take that action. All right, let me go back to our online shop section. Yeah, as I said, you have to actively promote it. And as I said earlier in the presentation, you want to treat your online shop like that is it's an incredible part of your business. And it does get like a little bit hard, I think, sometimes for creatives, because we want to create beautiful things that exist outside of capitalism and outside of price tags and what have you. And that's great. But at the same time, it's like we also have to live, unfortunately. So how do you start? A few people who sent me their online shops, I would ask, why is it not on your website itself? So a lot of website programs, I love Squarespace. I also love Wix. They are super easy. If you're a person where you like get intimidated by building a website, you think you have to code, gosh, no, you don't. You can use one of these websites and you can easily create a shop within those sites, because you don't want to send your customers to all these different parts of the internet. You want to keep them all in one space. So perhaps I'm looking up your artist website. I want to know your bio. But oh, I see you also have a shop, and look at all these beautiful things you have for sale because it's on your website. If you do like a third-party thing, you could do something like Etsy. The group I work with, Big Cartel or Punk the Capital, they sell merch on Big Cartel, even though we're transitioning to a Squarespace merch site now. Personally, I and a lot of other musicians just use Bandcamp. And if you do use one of these third-party sites, have a link on your website that says shop, and you click it, and then it goes directly to that location. Also with online shops, so this might be something for you, Janet. Maybe you have you can create a really cool t-shirt for your dance company, and it's something that even fans would want to buy and wear. You sell that for, maybe it costs you $10 to make each shirt, and you're selling it for $25, and that's a $15 profit. So this is something a lot of musicians do. We have to create a lot of different merch options. So maybe you're an artist, and instead of selling only the original art, maybe you also sell postcard prints. Maybe you have a postcard set. Maybe you have a sticker set. So just we're all creative, so just stretching, thinking outside the box. Someone had asked me in my survey about selling directly on Instagram. You will need a creator or business account, which you can do in settings. If you just look online, say, how do I make a business account? Lots of tutorials, very simple. But that will give you the option to connect, I think it's to Shopify is the app. I had sent a particular person who asked me about selling on Instagram a better link on how to do it. If you're going the option of online shop and you want to promote it online, your social media has to be stellar. So really clear photos of what you are selling, again, showcasing someone wearing it, or it's on display in someone's living room, or, oh, here's another happy customer. So building that sort of brand of that world. And we talked about this on your website, have a FAQ. What can I expect for shipping? What can I expect for sizing? With Punk the Capital, we had this really popular sale where we sold face masks that had a DC hardcore flag. And as I said, that film has an international audience. So when I got a question from somebody, they wanted to order it, they lived outside the US, my supervisor said, oh, we're not going to do that, it's too expensive. But here's the thing, that person is going to pay for shipping. You, the seller, don't. So find a solution to get people who are interested in your product. Find a solution to give it to them. I sell like cassette tapes on my Bandcamp, and I've had people from Germany and France buy them. They're willing to pay the $20 shipping for a $5 cassette. It's incredibly, generous of them. But make sure that you kind of research into that. Think beyond your local area. Think beyond people who you meet every day, because people all over the world will probably be interested in what you do and what you sell. And again, thinking outside the box, one thing that is really cool about social media and selling, I see this trend on TikTok and Instagram where they kind of show like the eye candy or the ASMR of like putting together a work of art. So maybe I order a painting. I want to commission a painting. And that artist will then create a video of them making my specific painting. That's so cool. That gives me, the buyer, something special from you, the artist. And it also shows to the artist's entire following, like something they're working on. So, I kind of said earlier, like milking things for as much as you can. Like if you have one sale or one event, like try to get as many different uses out of it to create content or to tell a story that you can then share with your followers. And we talked more about this. This might be for you, Janet, about doing virtual events. I know there's apps. I think like Showco might be one. There's like new third-party apps popping up all the time that specialize in performing arts, ticketed concerts. Honestly, as a consumer, I love being on websites I'm familiar with. I know like the concert venue DC9, they've been doing this thing where they have local bands come in. They're selling $5, $10 tickets on Eventbrite. They're filming a live stream from the empty venue, and I think it's being sent via an unlisted YouTube link. So I've also seen some, like, how a lot of movie premieres have been delayed currently. There was this one documentary that was supposed to premiere, but I think they did like a limited weekend only where you buy or you rent the movie and you got to watch it for that one weekend only. So having things limited, exclusive, you want to give people a sense of urgency, not, oh, I'll catch the next one, or, oh, I'll wait till they open up. Like, it's got to be now, it's got to be special. And if I don't tune in, I'm going to miss it. As I said, you can kind of give like, yeah, film festivals, totally doing that. Give a free sample. You could post a clip, or maybe it's like if you're doing like a dance feature, maybe you have like your dancers do a little interview where they talk about their favorite bit or why someone should tune in, or maybe it's why dance is so important to them and why tickets are so necessary. Because I know there was a lot of discussion, like when Hamilton was on Disney Plus, people were talking about like, well, why can't all Broadway be like this? And I think explaining to, laymen, to non-artists, why is it important that we sell tickets? Why are tickets so expensive? Where does this money go? Why this and that? I think if you can explain to them like the expenses of music, like, oh, it's not just us putting on pretty costumes and dancing, it's also the rehearsal time, the studio space, the gas it takes for us to drive to wherever. Explaining that to people and why arts are important. Oops. Some other ways to monetize. I talked a little bit about researching for grants. I think what's unfortunate is like we're at the point in the pandemic where like I think a lot of those grants have kind of run out. But that is not to say that you shouldn't constantly look up online. And live streaming, you don't have to be local to Fairfax. You could see if maybe there's a nationwide grant, but maybe it's based in California and they're just looking for any artists. I did something like that early in the pandemic. Maybe it's checking to see if like a group in Asia or Europe or wherever wants to have you create content for their viewership. You could also partner with corporate brands, colleges, or city business improvement districts, things like Roslyn Bid or City of Fairfax. I think it's the Business Association, I think is the official name. But groups like that might hire you to do a pop-up art event, or to do a concert, or to do a dance performance. So, and even if they don't list it on their website, you can email these companies and these arts groups and say, hey, I have this idea. Would you all have the budget to hire us or to commission us? The worst they say is no, or, oh, we can't now, but we'd love to hire you in the future. Lisa says, you have one. Is that a grant? So check it out. ArtsFairfax has a grant for it.
Yes.
All right, there you go. I'm in Alexandria, so like someone like you, Janet. I know Office of the Arts in Alexandria was doing like living room sort of performances that they were hiring artists for. So a lot of different local arts groups are doing that. So, you know, check in Maryland, check in Delaware, check in Pennsylvania. If you move to Fairfax from another area, like check to see what they're doing. You can finagle it and say like, oh, I used to live in wherever, Idaho. Would you love to have me do a performance for your arts council? Like, you know, we're creative, be creative. You can also, if you have a strong community, start a Patreon. Patreon is like a crowdfunding website where people sign up to donate, let's say $5 a month, and they get these perks. So they donate, I don't know, $50 a month. They get these perks. I didn't want to get too much into Patreon just because it takes a lot of time. It's not like you just sign up and people give you money and then you go on existing. You have to give them something in return. So you're constantly giving them an exclusive video content, or you get to chat with them, or they get a special t-shirt. So it's not always something you can just start blindly. You have to kind of plan it out. And again, that's also something people think about when they start YouTube channels. There's definitely a potential to monetize on YouTube, but it takes work. You would need 1,000 subscribers and 10,000 viewing hours. So it's not just, I got all of our patrons to sign up and follow me. They have to watch the videos. But if you're able to get that, if you're able to sustain that, and honestly, it doesn't hurt to try and see what kind of community you can build through YouTube and video, then you can then collect ad revenue. And there's a ton of information on YouTube monetization if you look it up online, because YouTubers love to talk about that and help others. So those are some ideas I have on monetization. And if anyone in the last 10 minutes here wants to maybe ask some questions to follow up on it, let me stop my screen share. Does anybody have any other questions, or maybe if you've done something that worked for you to monetize your art and practice online? Love to hear it in our final moments here.
And if not, we can always share. We've got a couple more sessions where we can share further information. I think we'll go ahead and close things up since I'm not seeing any other questions.
Oh, I should also say, if something that wasn't covered in today's workshop, I know it was really rushed, and like, thank you all so much for being patient and following along and contributing. I'm teaching a few other more specific workshops through Arlington Arts. So I'm doing one on live stream and 2 on social media. I can drop the dates in the chat. You're also welcome to email me with some questions. You can, if you have deeper questions, you could probably hire me for a consultation. I'll see what my schedule is like. But yeah, I'm happy to help everyone in the Fairfax art scene, because this is where I grew up, and I think we have a very strong community.
Great. Thank you so much, Caroline. We really appreciated your wonderful presentation and for taking the time to really answer some questions individually. I think everyone got a lot out of it. So the presentations and materials will be shared with everyone. And then at the end of the 4 sessions, I'll be sending out an evaluation form that will kind of cover all 4 topics that we've been going through in each session. And we hope that you'll take a few minutes to complete that. Tomorrow's session is going to be focused towards teaching artists and covering adapting residencies in senior centers. We have Arts for the Aging, and then a couple of people from Neighborhood and Community Services who will be talking about their virtual platform for active adults. So that should be really great. And I'm going to just quickly share my screen for a second. If you haven't connected to ArtsFairfax online, please do that, especially with everything we've been talking about, marketing and branding. So you can tag us at ArtsFairfax or use our hashtag ArtsFairfax, to continue the conversation. We also want you to be sure, I know Lisa mentioned this, that there is a second round of emergency relief and recovery grants for artists. The deadline is October 30th, and we encourage all Fairfax residents to apply. And I think that I've covered everything. So thank you again, Caroline, and thank you everybody for participating. All right, have a great rest of your day.
Thanks. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you, Caroline.
Hey,
that was
bye.
awesome.